Radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network.
All right, here we go. Fade to Black, continuing our anniversary week here. Just an amazing week on the show. Monday, our 2000th show with a bunch of friends. That was absolutely amazing. And then last night, Darcy Weir was here for show number 2001 and his new film, Transmedium. Tonight, Leela Hutchison is with us. And tonight, prepare to have your mind blown. There isn't, and I was just in the chat with everybody right before the show. There isn't a word. We don't have a word to describe what you're about to see and hear about tonight. And we're going to go beyond that too as well. Crystals, this is my opinion, and I'm a big crystal guy, and I admit it. I've got lots of crystals in the house, and I've got crystals in every room. I've got a really incredible skull collection. I keep crystals here in the studio for different reasons. I keep stuff right here. It's always at arm's length. And because I believe that they affect us. Now, there's a lot of research out there that goes into this for sure, but I personally have experienced it, and I don't necessarily react or have a feeling that others say certain crystals will do. Sometimes, yes, okay, that's not entirely true, but I've learned my own thing with it. But there's something going on. There's a lot of power there, and what you are going to see and hear about tonight, I'm telling you, it affects everything that's around you. And crystals can affect your consciousness and things. And so the power of crystals and all of that, we're going to get into that and other high strangeness tonight with Leela. And then tomorrow night, Paul Seaburn is back with us. And I've been talking about this all week. I'm very excited about this because Paul's got a new book out. He's a comedian, right? He's a writer, wrote for The Tonight Show. He's got a new book out. It's called What Would You Say to a Naked Alien? Yeah. So what would you say? What would you say? I'm not so sure. Last night, I think I said, depends if it's male or female. Yeah. I don't have much to say to a naked male alien. I don't even know what I would say to a naked female alien. Coming up in the second half of 2024, now coming up in about 10 days from now, Disclosure Fest, Stairway to the Stars, right here in Southern California at Castaic Lake. That summer solstice weekend, June 21st through the 23rd. Links for tickets and information and a full schedule are below. Then right after that, I head out to Miami for the 2024 Conscious Awards. And this year, it's hosted by Giorgio Tsoukalos. This is Forbidden Knowledge, Billy and Elizabeth Carson. And I get to co-host and hang out all weekend. It's going to be a lot of fun. So that is August 3rd and 4th. Again, the links are below. Now, the 3 trips that I'm doing this year to Alaska and Egypt and Peru, Peru's sold out. Egypt, I think, is now officially sold out. But there, and same thing with Contact at Sea and the cruise there. But you can get on the waiting list. And now I still think there's availability for the cruise to Alaska. The links for everything are below. I'm hosting all of these tours, and getting to hang out with Brian Forrester or Billy Carson and and Elizabeth, of course, and all of the great speakers we have going to Alaska. It's an honor and a privilege for me to do this. And so come and hang out with me. It's going to be great. And there you go. So that's everything for the rest of the year. And my goal, pretty much like every year, I just want to get to December. That's it. I just want to get to December where I can take a breath and then celebrate the holidays. So that's my goal. But that takes me through November of 2024. Tonight, Leela Hutchison is with us. And now a little background, and I'm not going to do much of it because I want to get Leela in here. But there was a discovery that was made in April of 2000 down in Naica, Mexico. And then Leela arrived with her team 9 months later in January of 2001. It wasn't until 2008 that National Geographic, Nat Geo, got into the caves and started to present this to the world too as well. She's a graduate gemologist from the Mineralogical Institute of America. She's an explorer. She's a researcher. She's an author, specializes in crystals, gems, and minerals. And her book, Journey into the Giant Selenite Crystal Caves of Mexico, is available on Amazon. I've got the links for everything below. And with that, let's get straight to it. I want to bring in, for the first time to Fade to Black, Leela Hutchison. There she is.
Hi, Jimmy.
How are you? It's been a while since I've seen you.
Well, I just want to say congratulations on your 2000 show that you did 2 nights ago. Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? 2000 of anything. You know, I can throw that question out to anybody. What have you done 2,000 times?
Exactly.
Right. What have you done 2,000 times? It's like crazy. It's crazy. But,
fantastic.
You know, it's just one show at a time, you know, and the next thing you know, you just arrive there and you're here for show number 2002.
I love that number.
Yeah, it's a great number. So, I don't. Yeah, I don't pay attention to show numbers and episode numbers, but we're in the 2000s and they sound pretty cool. 2001, 2002, 2003. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Now, Leela, before we get started, you get the first time guest disclaimer. So let's get that out of the way so we can proceed. Leela, it is just you and I sitting on my couch having a conversation as friends. And where that conversation starts, it starts. Where it ends, but we're going to end as friends. Okay, you have to accept so we can move on.
I accept.
You accept? You accept? Okay. Now, we've got a lot to discuss tonight, and this conversation is going to go into a lot of different directions. And I know that you listened to me intro the show. I'm into crystals. I didn't used to be. Right.
You were in that. Wow, I'm so impressed.
Yeah, it didn't used to be. And then I remember getting gifted a crystal in my first one and just kind of getting into it. And I've got a friend, Lisa Frith, who you may or may not know, but she's a Carolyn Ford, Einstein, the ancient crystal skull and all of that. And so, you know, I'm getting into this and I remember holding, this is probably 10, 11 years ago, but I'm holding a giant chunk of Brazilian quartz, just one of those big ones. And I'm holding it and suddenly I felt the energy going up my arms. I wasn't telling anybody. I wasn't saying anything, but I was experiencing it. And I was like, okay, all right, that's kind of weird. And I put it down and everything just kind of chilled out. And I thought, it must have been because it was heavy. Okay. That's the way my mind works. That's fair. Right. So then I just put my hand on it. It was sitting on, I just touched it and there it went. I was like, oh, all right. Okay. Now I've got questions. Is that the way, Leela, that people start to understand this? Because you hear about it, but then they have a personal experience and interaction with the crystal, and then the next thing you know, right, life changes.
Yeah, I think, Jimmy, definitely crystals talk to you. And we have something called the biofield, right? That's our energetic field around our body, and it's also attuned to electromagnetic frequencies. And then quartz crystal is it's piezoelectric, so it actually has a charge to it. And actually, if you took two quartz crystals, Jimmy, and you hit them together, and let's say you were in a dark, like a closet, it would spark light. Right, so it generates an electrical field. So it's attuning to your own biofield. And I think that's why some crystals call to people. People can walk into a crystal store and say, I bet many of your listeners tonight, and they'll hear some crystal on a shelf somewhere in the back calling their name or saying, I really want to go home with you. Right?
Yeah, it's real. It's real. It's not imagination. And I didn't used to think like that. In fact, I used to kind of tease a little bit. That's the universe slapping me upside the head for the way that I would tease the community, right? Oh, you're crystal hugging, awake hippie, with the pyramid over your bed, whatever.
Jimmy, let me give you a mind-blowing little couple of facts on this. Let's just go to quartz crystal. Even though these massive crystals in Mexico are made out of hydrated calcium sulfate, that's selenite. And so many of the people I know love selenite like I do. I have lots of it around me. But let me tell you a trippy thing. So Brazil is known as the largest quartz crystal field in the world, south of the equator. However, Arkansas is the largest quartz crystal stratum, like in north of the equator. And some of these theories go back to Atlantis. Now, here's some really trippy stuff that I spent 20 years as a field researcher after I had this experience in those caves. In Atlantis, they had something called like seed farming for their giant crystals that they used and generating their cities. And Arkansas supposedly is that seed farm. Now that's trippy. That's really trippy because you're talking about, it's like this, it goes all the way from Hot Springs to Mount Ida, Lake Washita, over to Jessieville. But, it's an incredible stratum of quartz crystal. Now, how do we know something strange happened? In Sarasota, Florida, there's something called Siesta Key Beach, and it is 99.9% pure ground up quartz crystal. It's the purest white sand you have ever seen, and it's out of quartz or silica dioxide. That's on the Gulf.
Wow, how cool is that?
How cool is that?
Yeah. What's it like to walk on?
It crunches.
It crunches, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Wow.
And
Wow,
it's
that's
just
incredible.
Yeah. So
that explains Little Rock.
Right?
Okay. Yeah, that explains Little Rock. And there's another part to this, though, too, as well. Is that people are very familiar with quartz watches. Well, that's how they work. They vibrate at a very, very, very consistent rate. When they get a little bit of a charge, and that takes off, and that's how a quartz watch works, and that's a quartz crystal. So this isn't like some woo-woo statement or methodology or thinking in our community. This is how we keep time.
Hey, the military makes synthetic quartz crystal all day long. All day long.
I bet they do. I want to post. Let me just show this to everybody. This is Leela and I last week. Last week. Oh
yes. My God! What we had fun.
Yeah, we did. And yes, everybody's going to start commenting. Yes, Leela is stunning. She glows. But is it because? And I'm not saying this to be funny or cavalier. Is it because of your relationship and understanding of crystals that allows your personality to come out like that? Because I see it in individuals that do.
Really? Yeah, I think so. Well, first of all, some really strange little background about me. It's not strange, but I have 25 years of hands-on healing. I started off as a massage therapist, but I have over 8,000 hours of hands-on healing. Like, I can read auras. I don't want to all the time, but I can see people's auras and energy fields around them. And I know who I was tuned to and other people I avoid. I'm sure, like many of us, we have a gut feel about it. Like, oh, I don't know if I like that person's energy. But I think over the years, it's been finely tuned for me. And I think being on those selenite crystals, it was like a massive energy generator that just kind of went, I don't know, it changed my course, the direction of my life. And I really didn't know much about crystals until I had this extraordinary experience. And when I started to speak at places like the Smithsonian Institute, or even go on to UnXplained and Ancient Aliens, I mean, all of that background, I had to have some legitimacy, Jimmy. And so I went to gemology school. I could have gone to geology school, taking courses, but I loved gemstones. Like, I'm crazy about them. My uncle was a jeweler. So when I was 5 years old, I was playing with flutes and faceted diamonds, and these little, from the bourses, you'd have these little tissue papers and you'd have these diamonds. And I was hooked at 5 years old. So it's always been, I think, in my family. My uncle he actually made watches for Rolex. So that's how it started a long, long time ago. So I don't know. I think so. I love it. And it's like a perpetuating energy. I think crystals will do that for you, but they'll also, if you have negative thoughts, and it'll amplify that too. So
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And then we'll get to Naica here in just a second. So I get from Carolyn Ford, I get a 30-pound Brazilian smoky quartz skull.
Oh, perfect.
Right.
Perfect.
This big,
Mm-hmm.
right? This big.
Wow.
Right?
Holy wow.
And yeah, really gorgeous. And loved looking at him. And I named him Vader. Okay.
Ooh.
So anyway, like Darth Vader.
Yes.
And so I just couldn't stop looking at him. He was just, so I bring him into my bedroom, mistake number one. And I put him next to my TV, mistake number two, pointing at me in bed, mistake number three. And why? Because I wanted to watch TV and then look at him and then watch TV. He was just gorgeous, and he was handsome. And I had the freakiest 2-week run of dreams, like crazy stuff. And one day I woke up and I go, man, I can't do this again. I can't. It's you. Right. So
it's you.
Yeah. I take him out. I put him downstairs in the house, cleaned up that first night. I could sleep again. Now I was sleeping, but I was having these you're
going places. You're going.
Yeah. Lightning and it was crazy. And it was that skull. And I'll bring him in after the break.
Oh, I'd love to see him.
Well, I'm going to bring in another one. All right. So I get gifted. You're my guest, but I just want you to understand my relationship with this as we continue. So I'm at this conference, and it is late at night, and I've been working all day, hosting and doing stuff. And it's the end of the night, and I get back to my room. Outside of my room, there's a table, a big patio, and my ex is out there with 7 women, 8, and they're having a crystal skull ceremony. They're burning stuff, and they're being really cool, being women, doing women things. And so I go out there, my male side, what's going on? And take a seat, Jimmy. I was like, okay, all right, I'll jump in. And so anyway, Lisa, in front of me is this skull that I have clear quartz, crystal clear. And he's sitting in front of me. I just said I don't know this yet. And so they're doing their thing. And I pick up the skull. This dude goes, "My name is Jose."
You lying. You're lying to me.
And I put him down. I was like, I'm out. So Lisa gifts me the skull. And so I go in, I order room service, and room service comes in. He's sitting on the bed right here. And so we get the food, and I get a bottle of Dr. Pepper, plastic bottle, right? And I put it on the nightstand right here, put it down. And as soon as I looked at the food, I heard bump, bump. And I looked, where'd that? The Dr. Pepper's on the floor. And I picked it up. I thought that's kind of weird. I put it back in the center of the table. And I turned back around and do my thing. Boom, boom, boom. What? And I look, and it's on the floor again. The thing is I said, dude. And I picked him up and I put him in the drawer. I put him in the drawer. And I thought to myself, am I really doing this? And can I tell people about it? This is, so yeah, I'm cool with it. I am absolutely 100% dialed in with this. The power of crystals is real. It's universal. It's the same thing on the other side of the universe as is here on the other side of the planet. And that's where I'm at with it. Now, with this crystal cave in Naica, I'm going to pull up something really quick before we get to the images. But I want to show everybody a quick map and then hand this over to you. That's its approximate location. Everybody can see there's Mexico City down here at the bottom. You can see Tucson here. You can see San Antonio. It's just south of Chihuahua, Mexico, right here. Now, how did you hear about the cave so quickly?
Okay. Thank you for putting maps up. I love maps. In fact, I was going to put one up myself. So you did me the favor here. So, there's something I want to say to your listeners tonight, first off, and then we're going to unpack this whole thing. These are the largest crystals ever discovered on planet Earth. And they are 1,000 feet below the Earth's surface in a cluster in a pocket. And when they were first discovered by the mining officials, because it's a 200-year-old working mine, nobody knew what the hell or how they got there. I mean, they just didn't really understand the growth. These things were 40 foot tall, and some of them weighed as much as 60 tons.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Oh, it's crazy. So I'm going to just jump. Just let me do this. I'm going to just kind of tease everybody about this, and we'll come back to it. So I've been a field researcher now for 20 years because this thing has blown my mind. I didn't have any background to prepare myself other than I was an athlete and a rock climber. I've done a lot of stuff like that. I grew up in Arizona and El Paso. I was born and raised in El Paso. So rocks, I just loved rocks all my life. And here's what I've come to look at this thing. This is my theory. This Chihuahuan desert, 200,000 square miles, 200,000, sits in the heart of it, right? In northern Mexico. And you know how many crash retrievals of UAPs that we've had in this area, and also UFO? I'm sorry, it's like an old habit now to say UFO instead of UAP.
No, it is UFO. Forget UAP.
Thank you. Yeah. So how many sightings that people have seen in this desert? And here's my theory about this. After all this research, and I'm writing my second book about this, and I will be at Contact in the desert next year as a speaker, because this is so weird and freaky. This is such a one-off in some ways. Like nobody's got this information and nobody's had this experience that are my fellow people in our industry. Nobody's had this experience. I think these crystals are beeping like transducers, transmitters, and receivers. And that because it's in this Mexican desert of a massive amount of magnetite, and it used to be a massive inlet sea, that it's drawing the attention of these UFOs. All right. So there's some kind of like maybe we can't hear it, but they're beeping. And it's drawing them in. It's like an intention. You know, there's a lot to be said about UFOs around electrical wires, you know, like transformers,
volcanoes,
volcanoes, and
right.
aquifers, like in the San Luis Valley up in Crestone.
And aquifers. And then you have giant rock, you know, up in Joshua Tree, the hill behind
Been there.
Yeah, you've been to that crystal field up on the top of that hill. That's
no,
insane.
I'm sorry. I've been to the Entanglement. I have not been back to that.
It's just it's a mile from there.
It's yeah, that granite there. It's freaky.
It's the biggest freestanding boulder in the world.
Giant rock and a crack, granite. Right?
Yeah. A little sliver, so big, and what broke off of it is ginormous. But in the big scheme of things, it's just like a little sliver came off. But behind it is this red granite boulder hill with it's insane to look at. But up at the top and behind it is a crystal field. It's a field.
Well, tell me what does it look like when you call it a field? What do you see back there?
It's you know what it is? It's like a cartoon. Yeah, it's not real. It's crazy. It's crazy. And so with all of the UFO activity that's going on there, and I can understand giant rock, right? But then you've got this giant crystal field that's on the top of this hill too as well. So and then when you go to something like Naica and you see the size of what we're talking about here. So let's get back to the question. My bad. I can talk crystals all night long.
So that's so cool.
Okay, so the discovery was made. You went down 9 months later. How did you hear about it?
Okay, so this is a really trippy thing too. Jimmy, have you ever heard of the Tarahumara Indians, the long distance runner Indians of Mexico? They're the fastest running people in the world. They're incredible. And the Tarahumara are very ancient, I should say, an old indigenous tribe of people that live in northern Mexico. And these guys, the Tarahumara have like legs that are like tree trunks, and they have been known to run deer down to the point of exhaustion. These guys wear like huaraches, if you want to call it that. These are like, they take tires and glue it to leather with just a little string between their toes, and they'll run the Copper Canyon trails. And that is a huge distance from top to bottom in these trails, running down and racing deer, and also racing with other villages in their tribe. So these guys, boy, that's really gets into a lot. This is their country. In fact, their real name were called the Tarahumara, and that name of Naica in the Tarahumara language means a place of shade or rest. So Naica is actually a Tarahumara name. So that's a term for what they found. So let's go back for just a minute. Let's talk about the Sierra Madres. This is where 200 years ago, people on the El Camino Real were like, I don't know, different travelers. They would stop at the base of this near Naica where there was some shade and some water for the horses, and they saw rivulets of silver in the stream. And that's when they decided, we're going to dig here. So they started right there in 1791, something like that. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. Then, as I said, this is the Tarahumaras. This is their country, and Naica is part of that. So I was actually on a trip down to Copper Canyon and met a guy named Peter Essick, who was a photographer for Nat Geo. And we were watching a very secluded private ball game between two villages on the mesa of the Copper Canyon of the Tarahumara. After I saw that, I got involved with helping some charitable things where we were taking like bags of corn down to them because they had an attrition rate of over 50% of their children because the Mexican government had come in to Copper Canyon on the plateaus and just decimated their forest for the wood. Well, if you don't have any forest, you don't have any rain. And if you don't have any rain, your crops aren't going to grow. So a lot of attrition, a lot of deaths. So I met these people doing some charitable work, and it was coordinated with a man out of Tucson who's now passed away. And he never forgot that I did that work, that charitable work. And this long story, and it's in my first book, actually, how I met him, but the invitation came through him because of the state of Chihuahua and the government and the Pinollas Mining Company couldn't take any photos inside their mine of these giant crystals they discovered in April of 2000. And the reason being, there was so much humidity in there that all the cameras, and they weren't professionals at this, they malfunctioned. You needed a camera that had film. All right. So we figured out that the kind of photography that we needed to do there would be double lenses. And we'd have to change those out about every 3 or 4 minutes to take any proper photography. So this is now, they found it in April of 2000, and they have no idea what they're really looking at. They can see it, but they can't get images out. But they know whatever this is, it's pretty extraordinary. And to date, now we're talking 22 years later, there's nothing in the world that comes close to the discovery of something.
Yeah. So let me, as you continue here, I'm going to pull up for everybody a couple of shots just to, and then, well, let me do this first. Let's pull this up as you continue. Because the cave and the mines itself is represented here. We're talking about extreme depth. And when you get down that far, you just mentioned humidity. It's got to be hot, right? You're getting close to the center of the earth, right?
Well, so, Jimmy, not really. Here's what happens. Let's explain where most caves are cold.
Put the microphone down. Yeah. It's okay.
Okay. So in most caves, they're cold. Like, the average is 55 degrees. That's why people put their wines in caves, right? Because they're cool. But what happened here is what you're looking at. You're at the depth of this Pinollas mine in Naica is about 2,400 feet. Not very deep. But the reason they can't go much deeper than that is that there is a massive aquifer underneath the Sierra Madres. And what happened was there was a pinch of magma, like through plate tectonic shifts, that squeezed this magma to create like a Bunsen burner. So what it did is it heated up all of this mineral-rich aquifer water. And as that boiled up to 136, 138 degrees and higher, that steam and that minerals started to climb up the fissures and cracks in the walls, all right, of the limestone, because that's all limestone. That's what an ancient seabed is. So that's how they found many years later how these crystals were forming was at this depth. We're talking about 138 degrees humidity and Fahrenheit in heat and 100% humidity.
Now,
so,
how do you suit up for that?
Okay.
I mean, I've got a lot of images here, and we're gonna do that. But describe that for me, because you're not just putting on sandals and a tank top and walking down there because it's going to be a little warm. That's not the case.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the way people think. So how do you suit up?
All right. You didn't suit up in 2001. this was like a total exploration, checking this thing out and saying, look, you've done some work with the Tarahumaras. I want to invite you to be part of this exploration team. One of the very first, we've got to go in there and take images because nobody knows how to get images out of there. And I think I've got a pretty good idea. Not me. This is the person that actually organized it. And he said, I know that, that you've been a rock climber, you've been an athlete, you know how to do some of this. We're going to go down there and I want you to be on this team. And I'm going to take images of you and a number of other people in there. And we got to see what is down there. Okay. So, and he said, look, it's 136 degrees when they opened up the bubble inside bedrock. It's 100% humidity and no light. I was not prepared. Nobody told me how to dress. None of us had anything that's called a low-tech suit that was used by Nat Geo 7 years later. So look, Jimmy, what happens if you're in extreme temperatures of 128 degrees for any length of time? You're going to go unconscious. Your brain's going to go, it's going to heat up and it's going to shut down. And the reason being is that what keeps us going and conscious is that our skin sweats, right, when it gets hot. But if you're in a super hot sauna, your organs and your body cannot sweat. It can't cool it down. It's just hot.
So this is Leela, everybody, sweating, glistening, I might add. Wow.
Yeah.
That is now, and hey man, check out my crystal. Oh man.
Wow. Is that a trip?
It just, what's that?
I said, isn't that a trip? I want to share something about this picture. I had no idea what I was holding on to. There's no light in there. I have a miner's helmet. That's what I have, and a light on top of that with a battery pack around my waist. Until we got those images out and developed them, I was shocked. I had no idea. Does that make sense?
No, it makes zero sense. What
crazy.
Yeah. And so take me through this a little bit, because I had mentioned to you earlier about when I would pick up and I started to feel the vibrations of certain crystals. That's one thing. But now you're putting your hands on something that is, weighs tons and is potentially, dozens of feet, very old. I mean, I don't know how long it takes in years for something like this to grow, but it's got to be hundreds of thousands of years, right?
You were good guess.
Microphone down. Okay.
550,000 years.
Yep.
And the way they did this is it grows the width of a human hair every 100 years. How about that? And they lay down in sheets like laminates. And these are the NASA knows now, these are the most optically clear crystals of selenite they ever found. Here's a piece. It's the only one I was allowed to take out. Can you see this?
Yeah, I can. Okay, hold on. Let me pull you up here.
You can see this.
Hold on. There we go.
See, it's really dense, but see how it's reflective like that?
Yep.
But it's clear and it's really heavy. So
Absolutely.
This is different, huh? And it looks like quartz, but it's not. It's selenite.
That's beautiful. You know what I love about crystals as you hold that up? You know what I do? I think everybody kind of does this, but I hold it up and I like the action on the inside. There's always a story going on in there.
Yeah, there is. There is, definitely.
Yeah,
so what can I tell you about that? What you asked me a question about? What it was?
The vibration. So you got your hand on on a 50-ton, 40-foot crystal, what did you feel? In the dark too. Wow.
In the dark. First of all, I heard a hum. How about that? I heard the very lowest hum you could possibly imagine. And then if you can just kind of look into the shadows, I swear I felt like there were eyes. There were all kinds of beings looking at me. I really do feel that there is such a level of consciousness, because these are all created from water. Now, here's a really interesting fact that goes along with I was talking about these crystals being like antennas that are beeping out to, other life forms. When Dr. Penelope Boston of NASA's astrobiology department, she is the director she has over 650 astrobiologists that work for her, under her. She had a 2-hour meeting with me. This is in 2017. And what they found, that you were talking about, Jimmy, they took inclusions, water inclusions. They took some of the sample material out of the water inclusions and the largest pylon that was laying down on the ground in this bubble inside bedrock. And what they found blew their minds, because what her whole department is to study extremophiles. So extremophiles are microorganisms that live in very extreme environments, whether like, super cold like Siberian permafrost type of thing, or very extreme heat and radiation like Mars. So the Mars rover has a database, and they input all of this information, all this geological information on planet Earth into that. And then when they take the Mars rover, they're seeing what they can match. And they had nothing. These microbes that were found inside these pylons, they had nothing in their entire database for planet Earth. They'd never seen these before.
What was it? I'm gonna pull up this next image, and that's you. And just to give everybody a little perspective here on what we're looking at. Okay, that's the image. It's one thing to touch a crystal skull or a piece of crystal or some magic gem. Then it's something else altogether, isn't it? To be able to put your whole body across. And looking at you here again, I just have to ask the basic fundamental question: what was going through your mind? Was there something supernatural or crazy, or it has to affect your brain?
You know what your brain does? It just wants to survive. It wants to make sure your body survives. So your whole consciousness, you're slammed like a semi of such heavy heat and humidity that you can barely breathe. Your eyeballs are like being soft boiled by all of this high heat and humidity. So you are already altered. Your heart is beating so fast, and everything about your fight or flight is kicked in saying, what the hell are you doing in here? We need to get out.
How long can you stay down?
Well, in the smaller cave, what you're looking at here is believe it or not, I think we were there approximately 42 minutes. Crazy.
Really?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. So this is a whole thing about moving beyond this mentality that you got to run out. There's nowhere to run and nowhere to go. And if you fall or hurt, because I'm coming into the cave, but I have to go down a chasm and up like a crystal waterfall, but it's not moving waterfall. It's just all these crystals that look like a stairway. And then I got to go up the other side and explore into the furthest reaches of this bubble inside bedrock.
Okay, so which part of the crystal cave were you in that image?
Let me get my glasses and I can tell you.
I've got the map here.
Yeah, see the velas. Yep, Reina, that's the queen. Yeah, okay, see where the Reina is? Right here?
Mm-hmm.
We were there first, and then we went over to the Cuevas de los Cristales here. So that's the giant crystal cave, the one that you showed with me holding on to it.
Right.
That one was in that image that's been in the Smithsonian. It's on the cover of my book. But right now, the one you're seeing is this one here, the Queen's Eye and this smaller cave right there.
So the Velas?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the candles. That's the cave of candles there. But this is this little black part where see where it says Reina and it has an arrow?
Uh-huh. Right here.
Yes, that's it.
That's where this picture was taken. And that's about 300 feet. That's 300
Oh, that's
feet
meters. I think it's meters, which is almost 1,000.
Oh, it says that's right. There are 1,000 feet.
Almost 1,000 feet.
So
we're talking about a hum. We're talking about, again, having no idea what you're looking at. And obviously, see the color of the crystals? That's this optical clear crystal. It's also, they call it, Dr. Boston called it optical blue. So there's like a higher frequency, like a higher octave of color that you can hardly pick it up with your own human eye. But look at that blue color. They're not, if to the naked eye, they're not that color. But that is what the camera picks up.
Right, right.
So that's trippy.
You mentioned you had to change the lenses like every 3 minutes. Was that because of humidity? They were just fogging up and just turning.
Yeah, and the cameras malfunction. Yeah, so that's why we were able to get in there and get the first images. If I was really told how deadly this was, and that if you went unconscious, you might as well forget about it, because you can't get a gurney in there. There's nobody going to come and save you.
No. And I've been, I've been around the world. I've done some crazy stuff, and I've done, crawled into some uncomfortable situations. And I've often thought about that. I'm 300 feet underground. I've just crawled through a tunnel, right? That's this big. And what if something happens?
Yeah.
This is it. This is where it ends. Nobody's going to come and rescue you. There's no ambulance that's going to show up or anything like that. And it's the same consideration when you're 1,000 feet underground in these caves. That's it. That's it.
So what these scientists have found out, so once we delivered these pictures and we had them out there 7 to 8 years before, let me tell you, you can imagine Nat Geo doesn't like things like that. They like to be the first on the scene. So when they went there, they were able to do, they improvised these low-tech suits, right? They were like jumpsuits, and they had vests on that had cylinders of ice that were kind of stuffed in these holes in their vests that kept their organs cool. Okay. And then they had, and you might have that on Nat Geo. You'll see them. I've got images all over the place where they show them with even they're breathing oxygen, some cool air, because it'll burn the inside of your lungs at that time. Okay. Even in 2008. But we didn't, as I said, we didn't have that. There you go. That's what it looks like. Now, these guys they're in the large cave, and see all this convenient lighting? That's all backlit. They put that in there. That's all artificial light. There's none of that light in there. So
TV.
There you go. So what they wanted and what they found, all right, first of all, they found those extremophiles, like on Mars. How these extremophiles live is that they find fissures and cracks on the Mars surface to escape the ionized radiation on Mars. So that's what they were looking like. Wait a minute, let's see if we can find microbes or living life here on the Earth that will help us understand how these little guys are surviving on Mars and other planets. So far it's just, they say we've only been to the moon and Mars. Who knows? But that's where all this research was about. So that's one of the things. And then understand how they grew because of this aquifer. All right. But that was probably the most important things that really came out of it, was to understand that these things look like Jurassic Park.
Completely. So as a tourist, I mean, what's the access to this cave?
There's no tourism. This is the most prolific lead, zinc, and silver mine in Mexico, in the country of Mexico. Pinollos is located in Mexico City. This puts out, I don't know, millions of ounces of silver every year. So it's not for tourists. It's impossible to have tourists. This has been for scientific expedition, and they know everything about it now. That's what they went down. They said, what the hell is this? They figured it all out between 2008 and 2010, and there's nothing new to publish. However, Dr. Boston told me that she said, we're pretty sure there's more clusters and bigger crystals, even deeper. But they can't get to them because it's the deeper you go, the hotter it is. So that's one thing. And the mine hasn't, it's convenient to have a mine auger down and create tunnels. Otherwise, you wouldn't have access to any of this. See, that's a beautiful image. See that long pylon to the right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's not a 550,000-year-old pylon, but its growth is there. I mean, it's
just stunning, man. It's just
beautiful, just
stunning. Beautiful. I looked at so many different images today, but and over the years, people have seen these images, and it just kind of gets past you. But then you see something like this. I mean,
mind blowing.
Wow.
Wow. And selenite is such a beautiful crystal. It's really soft because it's born from water. And what does water have? Water holds memory. Water is, it's multidimensional. That's all I can think about with water. It has, it holds, yeah, wow. That's beautiful.
That's just a crazy, you can't and I said it at the beginning, and I think everybody's starting to understand just a little bit now. We don't have words to describe something like this. We just don't.
We don't. So what are they? So let's discuss it. What are these things? Why do they grow? I mean, I don't have all these answers, but I'll tell you, it's put me on a 20-year, I can't tell you how many times I've driven to the Southwest and started to unpack this. And so my second book I'm writing now is called The Mysteries of the Chihuahuan Desert. It's like, what the hell? Why here? Why in this kind of formation? Why has it brought some of this UFO activity?
Right.
Not quite a bit. What are the common properties? Well, let's see, there's nothing else common in the world like this, is there? Because they're the largest crystals in the world. But we certainly have seen the same type of conditions. You've got desert, you got magnetite. The zone of silence is full of magnetite crystals. Okay? So you have that, you've got an aquifer, you've got a high desert, you've got magnetite crystals, you've got giant crystals that are sending out some kind of a signal. I know they are. I think all crystals, we were just talking about quartz crystals and watches, weren't we? Don't they put out a signal, so to speak, a piezoelectric, consistent rhythm? So that's what got me started in this, thinking, wow, okay, so if I don't know what's around here. So I started to unpack what was around there. So the zone of silence is a real trippy place. Have you ever had anybody on?
I have. Oh, I've done many shows on the zone of silence. That's one of my favorite subjects. How far is the zone of silence from? How close?
I don't know. Maybe 150, 200 miles to the southeast.
So it's right there.
Yeah.
It's right there.
Trino vortex. Yeah, it's Durango, Coahuila, and Chihuahua. That's where those convergence of those, and then that whole, well, you know about it. It's analogous. Is that the right word? No. It's where you can't get any radio or TV.
Nothing. It's the zone
community.
of silence. It's not called the zone of silence for fun. They got nothing there. They've got nothing there. And we've had crash retrievals there. We've had downed UFOs, the UFO sightings. Yeah. I think the U.S. military has snuck in there a couple of times and threw some stuff on trucks and pulled it out. The CIA is always involved. It seems that area, and it's just so funny that that's where Naica is, that the Mexican government knew that the United States was crossing the border and grabbing stuff and heading back the other way. And in some cases, they asked the United States to come down and pick this thing up and take it back.
So, well, okay, so that, I don't know about that, but Jimmy, and
yeah,
really? Okay, so on the zone of silence, did you ever do any research on the Deneb report?
I did, yes.
Why don't you share that? I'd love to know what you know.
Well, I would have to go back and look it up, but back to our point,
okay, that
high strangeness, what pop culture would call high strangeness, because we don't understand it, it happens in these areas and is attracted to these areas for a reason. And normal people that don't know anything about this call it high strangeness, but it's just nature. This is the way things work.
Yeah. So, you know what's interesting? So I was born in El Paso, Texas, and near to the southeast, I should say directly east of El Paso is White Sands Military Range and White Sands National Monument. And I used to go there as a little kid. Same thing with Cloudcroft, Ruidoso, Roswell. But I didn't know that the White Sands is 100% selenite crystal. So if you look at it, yeah, I mean, is that mind-blowing? You've got 200 square miles, not 200,000, 200 square miles and growing because it's shifting. If you looked at some of that sand under a microscope, they look just like this.
Now, that's not a coincidence. That's like very, 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 very strange to me to have that particular location, and it's called White Sands for a reason, right? And that's selenite, and then you have everything else that's associated with that area. That's not coincidence, is it?
No, I don't think so either. I really don't. I've seen those film clips of those UFO discs that have crashed at the military range. We know, here's some other high strangeness. The Athena rockets that were being launched from Green River, Utah, one of it went off its course, its trajectory. It was supposed to land in White Sands missile range, but it overshot its trajectory and ended up in the zone of silence.
It went to Mexico, and we had to go down there and get it.
Yeah,
and that's another example of the zone of silence. Why would it go there?
I got an idea.
And what is it?
I think it's the magnetite.
Mm-hmm.
I think it pulled it off its trajectory, and it landed there.
I can't imagine what that phone call was like.
I've been doing research. I'm actually putting it in my book. It's kind of interesting. They loaded those Athena rockets with cobalt 57, and they had to go. I think Werner von Braun went down there on that one, and they had to obliterate any sign of that crash, and pick up every little piece. Like they came in there and literally took every piece of evidence of it of that area. And I think what they did was, no, that would have been that Mexico's Roswell. That's the one where they did a suitcase nuke and then obliterated whatever it was that killed those 24 military guys. You remember that about Mexico's Roswell? You probably had Noe Torres and Ruben Uriarte on your show.
I have. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they did a book on that as well. And those are the guys that also talked about the Deneb report, because they were insiders. They came like 20 years later and kind of leaked this document, because there was no sign of that crash retrieval in the desert. That's another thing where they did a complete cleanup crew. But this Athena rocket had this Cobalt 57, I think, in the nose. And they had to go in there and clean all of that radiation up.
Yeah, that was a full-on U.S. military convoy going across the border out of Texas. And there were reports that they came in also from Arizona and New Mexico as well, and converged on that area, and were there for quite a while.
That's true.
Yeah.
Colonel Von Braun was a part of that. Yes.
I'm sure he was. Let's take our break right here. Our guest tonight, Leela Hutchison. We're talking about the giant crystal caves of Naica. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. Stay with us. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to get your alerts and access to over 2,000 videos. Click that subscribe button right now. Go to jimmychurchradio.com and get the Fade to Black official podcast. 2,000 episodes, all of them commercial free for just $2 a month. Hi, this is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and I want to invite you to come to Alaska with me on the Contact at Sea cruise. It is this September 6th through the 13th, 2024. We are on the largest ship in the Pacific Ocean. That's right, the Ovation of the Seas. It's an amazing cruise, and a ship this big is so much fun. We've got lots of activities and lots of great speakers. We are leaving from Seattle to Sitka, Alaska, Skagway, Juneau. We're going to end the cruise in Victoria, BC, and arrive in Seattle on September 13th. We've got a lot of amazing speakers, including we've got Seth Shostak, Scott Walter, Stephen Bassett, Daniel Sheehan, Daryl Sims, Mas Adi, Vivian Chavez, Grant Cameron, Geraldine Orozco, Misha Johnston, and Melanie Aguirre, and a whole lot more. All you have to do is go to divinetravels.com. You can also go to contactatsea.com. Both are going to take you to a full event schedule. You can check in, look at the boat, get things ready to go, and maybe get a cabin with a balcony. That's what I'm talking about. Come see the whales. Come check it all out. Let's go to Alaska this September 6th through the 13th, 2024 with me, Jimmy Church. Now, when you head to divinetravels.com or contactatsea.com and get signed up, you know what? Use my name, Jimmy Church. I'll see you there September 6th through the 13th, 2024. Let's go to Alaska. This is Jimmy Church. Please visit and explore Egypt this October 3rd through the 14th, 2024 with Billy, Elizabeth, myself, and very special guest and the #1 podcaster in the world, Sean Kelly. It's simple to do. Just go to forbiddenknowledge.com and click on upcoming tours, or click on the link below. We'll see you there. Watch Into the Vortex on Gaia TV. It's fade to black for the screen. Simple to do. Go to Gaia.com, search Jimmy Church, or click on the link below. Follow Fade to Black on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Get all of the show updates every single day. It's now called X, but who cares? How you doing? Jimmy Church here. Special announcement. Get your Fade to Black t-shirts. That's right. Help support the show. Help support everything that we do over here. We've got 2 t-shirts. We've got 2 ways to get them. Get your Fade to Black t-shirt today. Go Backley Tappy. Go to jimmychurchradio.com and become a Fadernaut. Get a membership. That's right. Everything is commercial free. You have access to downloads, and you get to call yourself a Fadernaut. River Moon Coffee, makers of the Fade to Black blend. Truly the best coffee on planet Earth. Just visit rivermoonwellness.com or their Amazon store. It's all simple to do. You can check out the Fade to Black blend, the Game Changer blend, or any of their Black Moon Wellness products. It's the only coffee I drink. It is the best, and it's Doc. Again, rivermoonwellness.com. All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, our guest, Leela Hutchison, is with us. Tonight, we're talking about the Naica giant crystal selenite caves down in Chihuahua, Mexico, and we'll get back to that in a second. We're also discussing crystals, high strangeness, and the influence that they have. And I am fully engaged. And so, Leela, I went during the break, and I went and got, as promised, this is Jose. He's the troublemaker. And yeah,
beautiful.
he is absolutely stunning. And I got to put him on a timeout once in a while. I do. He's just like, he's my boy. He's my boy. But and then I've got a lot of skulls, and I grabbed one of my favorite ones, and this is Ruby, and really heavy. It's a heavy, I don't know, it's probably weighs 7-8 pounds. But just, I mean.
Oh, she looks like she's made out of rhodochrosite.
Just
or ruby. Oh no, unless it's a zoisite. Is that ruby? Is it?
Yeah,
is
it's ruby. It's ruby.
Yeah,
it's ruby.
It is
and
ruby.
it just, man,
Yeah.
it's so. I've got a lot of skulls, right? And then and one like this, it doesn't look very big. Well, it's big, but woofa.
Yeah.
You know, that's and you can tell the different gems and how dense they are, and how much action is going on. But the back, look at that.
Yeah, I saw that. That's they call it ruby and matrix. It's called zoisite. And That's a beauty. I've never seen anything like that.
Yeah, she's incredible. She is incredible. People always ask, okay, so how much is that? If you got to ask, right? If you got to ask.
That's
But
amazing.
yeah, she is just, and I'll never forget. Now he's a he. Okay.
How do you know?
He told me. And
Okay.
she's a she, right? And it's really weird, and I, yeah. So I'm some big macho guy that rides a Harley. I know when my gemstones are feminine or masculine. I'll admit it. I'm okay with that. Fairies are real too. So I'm okay with that. Okay, so let's get back. I was talking earlier about the effects of this guy in my world and different. I've got so many gemstones and crystal skulls, and how they are different to me personally. What are the properties of selenite?
Well, on a metaphysical, first of all, she was named after the moon goddess Selene in Greek mythology. All right, so the pantheon of gods and goddesses, Selene was the full moon goddess that rode her chariot and horses across the sky, the night sky. So that is the Greeks, how they saw that is that around the Mediterranean, there would be these flakes, just like you were talking about the crystal mountain behind Giant Rock. There would be these flakes of selenite crystal all scattered all over the ground. And it had this, reflective quality to it in the moonlight. You didn't see it so much in the day, but in the night, if it's a full moon, thousands of years ago. So the Greeks were the ones that named selenite after the moon goddess Selene. Isn't that interesting? So she's also very feminine, and many people consider her a very angelic crystal. As I told you, I did healing work. This works, we have these chakras around our bodies, Jimmy, you probably know that. This works with the soul star. It's about 36 inches above the head. It's like a column of our light, and like our Sushumna. This is where the column of light from source comes into to the human body. It comes in these outer chakras. So this is, I think, the soul star chakra is, I believe, the 9th chakra on the outer exteriors of the biofield of the human body. So what happens with her is that she's it's like downloading angelic messages. So it's a very pure crystal. The other thing it doesn't do is it doesn't hold a program. So selenite is very different from quartz. Quartz holds a program, right? That's why we put them in computers.
Yep.
That's why you need to clear your crystal skulls and your crystals from time to time, because they hold thought forms or programs. So
yeah, for sure. I'm telling you, I put him on a timeout all the time. Got to.
Well, he's just doing a great service for you. He's actually absorbing your thought forms. So
I'll never forget that day. I pick him up and I look at him, and my name is Jose. I was like, "What?" And I put him down on the table. What?
Maybe it's your alter ego.
It was evolved, Jose, and so.
So the selenite crystal is like it's always moving. It doesn't hold a program. That's what makes it so clean and pure. You put it in your home, you put it in your bedroom. Piece of selenite crystal really helps to just clear the energy fields. So I would say those are the most prominent metaphysical aspects.
That would be something really good for me to have in the studio.
Oh yeah, look at this one. Hold on.
Yeah, I have different crystals. Oh, look at that.
Look at this baby. She's a beauty.
Oh man.
See that?
What is that? What is that?
Selenite.
Oh, that's selenite?
Yeah.
Look at that.
Look at
So,
look at this. See that? It's like this coral carbonate on the outer edge, but look how clear. And just look at all the encodements in it.
yeah. That's we were talking about that earlier. It's my favorite thing to do is to look at the action on the inside.
Yeah.
And wow, that is beautiful.
I think so.
See,
too.
so I have shungite in the studio
Love
to absorb EM.
Yep.
And so I've got that, and I've got a few other things that I keep in here because I've got so much technology in here. There's a lot of technology. I've got 1, 2, 3 cameras and lights and switchers and computers and
that's
stuff.
cool, Scott.
So, well, you got to keep it pure, though. You know,
Yeah,
you sit in. Yeah, you do. You really do. So,
where's Vader? You want to show us Vader?
No, Vader's not available.
Oh,
And he's 30 pounds. What do I look like, Superman? You know, yeah. This was enough.
she's beautiful.
But yeah, we've got probably I've got if you think this is nice, I've got a 24-pound ruby skull. 24 pounds. It's about 12 inches. It's the heaviest. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
So have you ever asked yourself why you're so drawn to ruby?
So I have a relationship with Carolyn Ford, and Carolyn is amazing. She is when it comes to, and you know, that circle of feminine energy that is out there that understands crystals, right? And she's, you know, and she's in that group and she understands. And so she surprises me. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So that's our deal. No.
Have
She
you
knows,
ever?
she knows who I am. You know what I
Okay.
mean? Personally, right?
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to ask you about auras. So you and I were just standing next to each other. We took that picture. What did I have an aura?
I didn't look. I turned it off. I don't always. I have to be intentional about that. I don't just. If I was looking at everybody's auras, I'd be exhausted.
We were that close.
I know. I felt your energy, though.
I felt yours. I felt
Yeah.
yours.
Yeah, it was great.
I wonder about that because again, I think that once you get that, not woke is different. I'm not woke. I'm awake. There's a difference there, and completely right. So once you are awake, once you experience that and understand it, then suddenly something turns on. And it wasn't turned on before.
Yeah.
So I tend to see people differently and feel them differently than I ever did before in my life. And that's part of being awake, right?
I think so. That's wonderful. That's actually some of our gifts turning on. You know, you had Billy Carson on a couple of nights ago, and he's so amazing, that guy. And he was talking about on Joe Rogan, where he was talking about our gifts are returning to us. So as we are evolving, our higher sensory gifts, which are many, are starting to return. And some of those, believe it or not, he was talking about the thousands of tiny magnetite crystals in our brain. How about that?
Mm-hmm.
And mentioning how animals track, you know, they know how to navigate. They just know trails. We're starting to come back online with that too. We're starting to remember things like ley lines and grid lines, energy lines, right? Because these things have been kind of shut down in the last thousands of years. And
That's right.
We're starting to come back online. That's why when you sit with, like, say, Max the Crystal Skull, I can't remember if I sat with Einstein, but I've met a number of them. Max is a real trip. I really love Max the Crystal Skull, Joanne Parks.
Mm-hmm.
He has given me some mind-blowing messages about how we create worlds upon worlds, and the multiverses. It's like, so hearing Billy talk about these gifts coming back online really, really excited me.
The ancients. Okay, I'm not prepared tonight to talk about this. I'm still unpacking it, but
Okay.
I went somewhere and saw something on Friday, this past Friday, and in seeing this and experiencing it, I started to see the connections between the cultures, and my point being, and this is what Billy is referring to, when you go like to the Naica caves, right, and you go and you experience other cultures and the indigenous people of that area, you go and you experience that around the world, and you see the art and you see what they're doing, you see what they're about, but you see the similarities between these cultures that are 10,000 miles apart, that never knew anything about each other, allegedly, right, 5,000 years ago or 10,000 years ago, but there's this connection. Well, now I've got some evidence that, like I said, I'm not really prepared to talk about, but the ancients knew. They absolutely 100% knew of a lot of things, and for some reason we've forgotten that ability, and we've forgotten that, and Billy's right and you are right, and I'm here to tell you that we're starting to understand that now, and we've got to let these distractions get out of our way so we can understand this. And I think that that's the next level of science for us. It
is. Did you ever discuss or talk about a frequency fence around the Earth? You ever talk about that concept?
I talked about it last night. What's your take on it?
I think that in order to keep this agenda of suppressing consciousness, which is not, it's failing. It's failing now because we're accreting. We're moving really faster and faster, aren't we? I mean, we're time is speeding up. We know that, whatever that concept is of space and time. But you remember maybe 20 years ago? I mean, 24 hours seemed like a long time. I don't know about you, but it goes like this now. Just day after day, it just is really fast. I think what happened was our controllers and off-planet controllers actually created out of like a crystal field, and created a frequency fence around the planet so that we started to maintain this matrix of like a 5 sensory perception field. It just kind of knocked it all down to just like animals, where we smelled, we eat, we taste, we smell, we touch, but we weren't really in touch with or in contact with our higher sensory abilities. As we're talking now in the last few hundred years and longer. I mean, I think thousands of years ago we had higher sensory perceptions.
We didn't have technology. We didn't have technology or the Kardashians, right, to throw us off target.
Exactly.
No, I am not in any way cracking jokes here. I'm being very, very serious. And this ability, the brain, and I just had Andrew Gallimore on the show, a neuroscientist and just an amazing guy. And talking about how much of our brain do we use, and people reference all the time junk DNA. Well, what is that extra DNA there for? What's that extra part of our brain that we never use? What's it there for? It's there for a reason, right? And we used to use it. We used to use it, okay. So check this out. Let's stay right here. Let's stay on the subject. Today there was so science and physics, and of course this goes back to Einstein, to talk about entanglement, right? Two particles separated by vast distances, and no matter what's in between, can affect each other instantly, right? Yeah. On the other side of the universe, entanglement. All right, and so now that's the highest form of science fiction you can get. That's more woo than you and I can possibly get to, right? And you and I are fully woo. Okay, all right, but that's real woo. Yeah. And so it does that answer telepathy? Does that answer downloads? Does that answer channeling? I don't know, but it answers a lot of questions. So today, entanglement and trying to convince us that, looking at something or observing something, you can change its state, and then it's entangled with another particle and can change its state, and quantum computers and qubits. This is science fiction crazy talk, but that's the world we're in. So today, DARPA does a press release. DARPA, right? Wow. The Advanced Defense Development Agency, and weapons and crazy stuff. DARPA has developed a laser that is entangled. Now, so where we are now is exactly what you're talking about. We are now working with and developing the science that we can't see or understand. And that's the consciousness part, right? We start looking at this and it's finally starting to happen. Then maybe we can get this unplugged and have the rest of the world go, okay, all right. So that's where we're headed. Wow. And I think that's where we are.
Yeah. Yeah, mind blowing. I call it non-locality, right? Non-local.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
A laser. You use a laser here, and it affects 10,000 miles.
So they are entangling particles, light particles, tightening them up, entangling them with entanglement, which is something that it's very difficult to even prove. But so anyway, to focus the laser to not only make it more powerful, but to make it more dense and more precise to shoot out into space like indefinitely. And that's got to be how ET. Now we start doing that like the selenite and crystals and you start sending out those kinds of beacons. That's what ET wants. We're gonna let them know this is where we are, man. We're in an entangled world now.
Right on. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's what they want. That's true.
Do you think as we move along in this disclosure side of things that ET and contact is consciousness driven?
You mean like when we detonated the atomic bomb and created some kind of a
there's certainly that part of it.
Where they came in after that? No, I mean, like they came in to say, what are these kids doing in the sandbox?
Well, that's another part of it, for sure.
Right? They open up the wormhole, so they're looking at our level of consciousness. Oh, I think they're definitely, that was definitely a marker to go like, what in the hell is going on planet Earth that they're opening up wormholes by detonating atomic energy. And
now you were right there. And so when we talk about Sandia and Albuquerque and White Sands and of course Roswell, when all of that was going down, we were just starting to learn about radar, right? And we're developing the atomic bomb and Los Alamos and Oppenheimer and all that stuff is going down. All of the sudden, and this is historical fact, green flying saucers were appearing above Albuquerque, and the physicists there were freaking out, and they wanted to know what was going on. Sometimes 3 or 4 of them would be up in the sky, right there in that area. So they set up 3 radar stations about 100 miles apart in a triangle to pinpoint where these ET craft were coming in. And this was in 1946. And isn't that interesting? It's exactly what you're talking about. And you were right there. How often were these sightings going? I know that they go on to today, but it's such a common thing. And all of that technology and brain power and craziness was happening right there in New Mexico.
Yeah, it was. I mean, just the fact that I grew up there. You know, we would go to White Sands as a kid, and we would pass by the Oregon Mountains. All right, so that is on the backside to the west of White Sands Missile Range, and there was all kinds of weird plasma, like lightning storms, but they weren't natural. They didn't seem natural, even as a kid. And there was all kinds of high strangeness happening in those Oregon mountains. That whole area, the Guadalupe Mountains, are right to the south of White Sands, and that's where Ruidoso, Cloudcroft, New Mexico. That's where, as kids, it was so hot in El Paso, Jimmy. We would the summers we would drive up and go to our cabins up in the mountains there, because that upliftment of 10,000 feet of limestone, right? The same thing where those Naica crystals are. It's that ancient inlet sea bed that rose up, that uplifted to 10,000 feet. That's the Guadalupe Mountains.
Now, you brought up something earlier, so let's circle back.
Okay.
So I'm understanding, because if it is if I'm understanding you correctly, it's mind blowing that selenite is the white sands of White Sands, right?
Yeah.
And selenite is angelic and purifying. And here we are doing all this satanic, demonic development of destructive, right, force
right
there. But the selenite is there to kind of, right, to balance things out.
Yeah, so some kind of or it's an inversion, as satanic does. It takes what's pure and then inverts it, right?
Right. Yeah. All those evil scientists.
Well, Project Paperclip. I mean, run around with you.
Yes. So I'm understanding you correctly. That's not coincidence. That's very, very, very interesting.
I do too. Like, what's that all about? Like, why there? Out of everywhere, why there? But then again, when you think about Los Alamos and how the Project Paperclip, that was all secretive, and how they took the train from Lamy, New Mexico, and then they secretively took them to Los Alamos and created that, and to build the bomb, that whole New Mexico. Yeah. What is it about New Mexico? Now, and here's a funny thing. If you walked out of the Naica mine where those crystals are, and you started walking straight north, in this corridor, you would have White Sands, Roswell, Trinity. You'd have Santa Fe, Taos, Crestone, Colorado. And as far as I've taken this in research, it takes you all the way to Wyoming, to the Devil's Tower. I call that the apex of this crystal string line. I don't know what else to call it. I just call it like, what's on this line? what's on this corridor here, and all of these. This is what I've been researching. All of these certain things. I'm
Yeah.
going to be having it in my book.
So this is New Mexico right here. This is New Mexico, and
wait a minute. Where's New Mexico? Because I'm just seeing the big red dot on my screen, and then El Paso.
Okay, so there's Chihuahua, and there's New Mexico. New Mexico's right here. Here's Phoenix and Tucson. And
can you pull the map down a little bit so we can see further north?
That's it. That's the end of my screen grab. I wanted to show everybody its reference to between Texas, New Mexico, and Phoenix and Mexico City. So I wanted to get Mexico City in this shot. But you're absolutely right. That's New Mexico right here, and this is Roswell. And then continuing up is Albuquerque, and then going in, you're right, into Colorado.
Yep.
and Crestone. Yeah, that's very, 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 very interesting to me.
It is to me too. You know, in Crestone, I forgot the name of the sands there. Do you know about those? The Crestone. It's not called Crestone, but it's those. It's that drift of sand that's near Crestone. Do you know what I'm talking about? That they made a national park
seen
out
pictures. Yeah, I've seen I've seen the amazing pictures of it. I'm not familiar with the sand, but somebody will pop it up in the chat. Everybody, what's the name of the sand near Crestone? The sand dunes. Yeah.
And Jimmy, this is a trip. I've done research up there because it's, like I said, it's on this string line that I've been researching. They don't know. This thing is such an anomaly. That sand shouldn't even be there. It makes no sense. The only sense that it could be is maybe some kind of ancient electric war where everything was just dustified, melted. Because that sand it makes no sense. Is there a base underneath there? Probably. An ET base? Something's going on. Something's there. Because there's a lot of UFO activity, a lot of high strangeness in Crestone. I don't know a lot, just a few things. But everybody feels that those sand dunes are, and I've walked all over them. There's something very strange about it. It just doesn't make any sense.
Do you have, in the time that we have left, now I want to pick your brain about crystals themselves. Do you have a favorite go-to crystal or gemstone?
Oh, I love my gemstones. You know what I think is really cosmic is, in fact, I'm wearing it tonight. I'm wearing an aquamarine. I just think that's a real higher dimensional gemstone. I love black tourmaline for clearing. Smoky quartz. I love that for clearing as well. I've got where I live. I've gridded my whole place with selenite crystals for sure. Another one I really love. It's a trip. It's from India. It's called apophyllite. That is definitely an interdimensional crystal. Not easy to find anymore. I don't know why. They'll come back in. They go and they come.
Yeah.
But their apophyllite is an incredible. It looks like quartz crystal, but it's not. It's
and what are its properties? The metaphysical side.
Yeah, the metaphysical. It's like, whoa. It taps into your multidimensionality of who you are, like your other multiple lives that you're living simultaneously. That's what that does. It's a cosmic stone, apophyllite.
What about tiger eye?
So tiger's eye is a beautiful gold, kind of banded. It's part of the quartz family, and I'm not really drawn to it. I don't have it.
I am. That's why I brought it up. I've got,
Tell me about it. What do you like about it? What do you think it does?
Okay, so this is my trip, and I love doing this. If I'm attracted to something, I get it. I get it. I just get it. And tiger's eye was one of those. Black tourmaline too as well. What's the green soft stone?
Well, there's a few of them. Amazonite. Oh,
No.
serpentine? Serpentine.
No. It starts with an M. It's the most.
Oh, malachite.
Yeah. I've got lots of that.
I love malachite.
I've got lots of that. I've got rings. I've got pendants. I've got chunks of it. I like meteorite too as well.
Moldavite. No, you're
there's-
meteorite. Oh, look at that.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, it's
So-
a big chunk. I
it's
also
heavy.
have very heavy. You know what I've got? I could go get it, but I don't want to leave the camera. So just use your imagination. I have a friggin' meteorite skull. Yeah, man.
Oh, you're so into this? Oh, how fun.
Yeah, oh yeah, I've got a meteorite skull. So I love meteorite, and what I like about it, first off, it's not from here. I dig that part of it, right? I dig that, but it's beautiful to look at. Very dense, very thick. You know, I mean, this little piece here, which it's a big chunk. This
It's
thing, man,
huge.
weighs like a half a pound.
Yeah, it's crazy.
crazy.
Let me since you mentioned meteorites, I want to talk about another really crazy thing. You might have heard about it, but it was called the Allende meteorite that fell in the zone of silence. Did you ever hear about that?
I have, yes. So, what do you know about it?
Well, this is the strangest thing about it. It has the building blocks of the universe. It's older than our planet of 13.6 billion years old. So
but that begs the question is obvious, and I talk about this a lot. That incident, and there's been others too. It's not the only one.
no, you're right.
When you have surviving in the vacuum of space, the components of RNA, that those basic sugars, those basic amino acids on that rock, that means it's floating around anywhere in the universe, and it could impact any planet. And RNA is what transfer. It's the upload to DNA. It's the instruction set. So if that is occurring, and we have evidence of it all over the place, right? Then yeah. Could this have seeded life on Earth? Well, yeah, but all the other planets too as well. But it survives space.
Yeah, instead of burning up. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? It's crazy. Yeah. Nature, man, you can't stop life. You can't.
Yeah, that begs another question. Some of the research I did as well was the Anasazi Indians meeting the Pueblo Indians meeting the northern Mexico or the Aztecs in the zone of silence in the Chihuahuan desert, because they were both witnessing meteors falling into the zone of silence. And they considered that was a signal or a message from the heavens, and they didn't know what it meant. But can you imagine, here they are in their pueblos or the Anasazi, up in their cliff dwellings, looking to the south, because we know what was going on there. I mean, the threat of others coming and killing them and eating them. There was cannibalism going on with that. But they were looking out, and they were looking at the skies, and they saw these meteorites fall, and they would go out and they would head south, and they would actually meet. And I don't know how this happened, what the communication was, but they were meeting their southern fellow Indians, so to speak. I think they're derivatives of the Aztecs, which were natives of northern Mexico, in that desert, to determine what were these messages, these heavenly messages that were falling there. That's all we know about it so far, but that was just something I also wrote about, because that's pretty significant.
Well, and I think that crystals store. Okay, before I go fully woo, but this is my take. Everything is recorded. Everything throughout history, everything is recorded. It just stays there. And that is another discussion with science and how long does an electron live for, and so,
And
some
DNA.
say, right. So if that's the case, the ability to store information in something like this or other ancient crystal skulls that are around, it's not that information was put in here, it's that it records what is happening already. Now you can upload stuff, yes, and you can have this do things, yes, quartz watches, yes, okay, yeah, that's that part of it. But the other thing is, this is just recording what's going on, right? That's it. And the ancients knew that. And the talk of the emerald tablets or these different historical artifacts that have information stored on it or in them, that's just part of it. That's the magic of crystal. So then, if this is happening, and this stuff is flying around space and impacting planets, or information is being shared and presented to us like this in this fashion, why dismiss that idea? Because it's happened so many times, right? We've kickstarted and restarted life on this planet, right? 6 times now. 6 times.
Yeah.
The information, Leela, to start a new species, right? We've had a mass extinction event, right? Then 10,000 years later, we've got life back on Earth, and we've got all these new species. Well, Darwin said that this takes 100 million years and 50 million years to evolve, but yet we're right, it's just happening instantly. Well, maybe stuff was brought here, right? It didn't evolve, right? And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
You just brought up something else. Here's some theories. There's been many discussions over the last 20 years that these selenite crystals were part of a observation of reseeding the planet. Like they had something to do with monitoring and observing human growth, and its progress. Because after there would be a wipeout, then life would start again. So we know that there was some kind of an acceleration. I believe that we know this, where they had to have temperate climates. You're not going to have a species propagate itself in conditions like Siberia, but you would if you were in a tropical,
Venus,
right? You would with a tropical environment with plenty of water and lots of plants. It would recede pretty quickly. So there's been theories about these crystals are also recording information and being uploaded, that this came from possibly Pleiades, Syrian. The Syrians were heavily involved, I think, with designing humanity with the Pleiadians. Lyans were too.
Have any of these? Have they attempted to remove any of these crystals from Naica?
It's impossible. There were two guys way back. In fact, that's another thing. And they said that was a lie. That's not true, because I have 55 of the rarest images, Jimmy, because they're the first ones that ever really came out of the mine, is what we have. I have control of those. But what we found was a rope and in the Cave of Crystals, and 2 of the miners back in the 2000 tried to yank one of the crystals, not the biggest pylons, but something that they could carry out. And it was the extreme conditions. It was so hot in there that one of those miners that were like working off time, they got in there, he went unconscious, and the other one panicked and he left because this guy was down. And what are you going to do? Drag this guy out over the crystals? I don't think so. You're barely alive yourself. They actually put their own carbon dioxide in plastic bags that to breathe. That's what they thought that would save them. But this one guy runs out, the other one goes unconscious. He brings back help, and the guy's cooked to death. He's just literally almost like parboiled. It's so hot and it's so humid. Like I said, when we went in there, it's like your eyeballs, they're like seared, they're burning because they're being cooked. It's that hot in there at that time.
I can't imagine. You know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of the Superman comics from the 1950s.
Yeah.
You remember Superman lived in a crystal cave? Kind of
Fortress of Solitude, right?
Yeah, that's it. That's what that reminds me of.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Superman. So when is this book gonna publish?
I'm gonna say by late fall. I'll get it done by late fall, and then I know that Contact in the Desert is going to be interested in that, so I'll probably be speaking there next June.
Yeah, I'll make that happen. Get the book out. I'll make that happen. Not a problem.
I'll send you a copy. Actually, what I'd love to do is, why don't I send you a signed autographed copy of my book, Jimmy? Would you like that?
I would love that. Love that. I'll send you my address in an email right after the show.
Okay, great. I'll do that and send one out to you. That'd be terrific. So that's Leela, what I think.
Yeah, thank you so much. What a great show. What an amazing conversation. Where can everybody reach out to you?
thecrystalgiants.com is my website. They can, if they want to order they can email me at leelasgems@yahoo.com. And if they want to order a personal book from me, I can have it signed. They can just contact me and say your book, and then I can write them back and tell them everything about it, where to send it, and how much money to send me and all that. And then I can autograph that for them. And then I think you probably have it. I've got a Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I've got my social media up. It's not always current all the time, Jimmy. It gets old trying to keep that stuff up all the time, but it's there.
You got to do what you can these days. Leela, what a great show and a great conversation. Thank you so much. And I look forward to getting your signed copy and the next book. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. It's been a pleasure, Jimmy. Appreciate you.
Leela Hutchison, what a perfect show. I will see everybody tomorrow night for Paul Seaburn. This is Fade to Black. Fade to Black is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee Newman, and Michelle Freed. Special thanks to Bill, John, Dex, Jessica, Dennis, and Kevin. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music by Doug Aldrich. Intro, Space Boy. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2024 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Go back, Lee Tappy.